Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you today from the gift shop at the state legislature. On the program today, Randi Thompson.
We have the Speaker of the Assembly, Richard Perkins.
And on the Power Pundit panel today, Chris Wicker, Ray Bacon, and Alfredo Alonso. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communications, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
For more than a decade, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has been helping the community embrace conservation as a way of life. That includes replacing more than 50 million square feet of grass with water-smart landscaping. During the worst drought on record, watering restrictions and tough landscaping codes have reduced the community's water use by billions of gallons, even as thousands of new residents were moving into Nevada. That's smart water management, and that's our promise to Nevada.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
This is a special edition of Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, welcome to the program, the Speaker of the Assembly, Richard Perkins. Pleasure to have you here as always.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's start out with your Growth and Infrastructure Committee. We heard a lot about it before the session, but not so much during the session. What can you tell us that's come out of that committee so far?
Well, the largest thing, Sam, that's come out of that committee is the property tax relief bill that we passed just in late March, so that we were able to provide property tax relief for the entire state. We spent about 2 months on that one bill in that committee. We've also had a presentation by the Clark County Growth Task Force, the Regional Transportation Commission, and just getting a handle for the committee's benefit on the types of growth that the state is seeing.
And what came out of that?
Well, right now we're looking at various measures to bring local governments together so they can better coordinate the planning of growth, so that we don't find ourselves in with the problems of transportation and the gridlock and other infrastructure issues that we see around the state. As well, we've talked about infrastructure throughout rural Nevada and how that will help rural Nevada continue to economically develop over the next few years.
Okay, can we just go back to the cities thing for a moment? Can you throw out a couple of specifics in terms of how you want to handle growth and the infrastructure?
Well, sure. I think we want local governments to talk more with each other. I think if we were able to solve our transportation woes both in the Reno area and the Las Vegas area, that would take a lot of the growth concerns away from our public, because it's trying to get across town that seems to be the biggest frustration. But in doing that, I think we need to plan better for our roadways before we have a big development and we increase densities in population. We've got to have the roadways there to support that. So it's just having them talk together. There's a big discussion in Southern Nevada about the annexation of property within the BLM disposal boundary and the like. And before they get into those areas, they need to have a plan and talk with each other on how to coordinate those efforts.
Are you going to see more upward rather than outward?
In Las Vegas, we're already seeing that, because as much as we never thought we'd see a scarcity of developable property in the Las Vegas Valley, it's starting to occur now, and the only way to absorb the population and increase affordable housing, frankly, is to go up instead of out.
Well, part of the growth issue is schools, and has there been discussion recently of how developers can be more active in paying for the schools, either through impact fees, well, specifically impact fees in new areas? I mean, I just heard a story on NPR today about a fund that's being set up by developers in another state, and how it's directly benefiting the people that buy the homes in that area.
Well, what we're seeing throughout the state, but again, primarily in the southern Nevada area, is the local governments are requiring the developers to set aside the property. And it's valuable property. It's fairly expensive for the developer to do that, to set aside 5 or 10 acres for a school site. But they're requiring that as these developers move out into the areas. That's what's going on right now. The impact fees haven't been as large a discussion, frankly, but at least the setting aside of property. We've also talked to the governments down there and up here as well about when you do get into an outer area, are you setting aside the land for the roadways that you need? Instead of having to go back and acquire those rights of way later. It's very expensive to do that, and it just means better planning.
Okay, and that leads to the question, where's the money going to come from? In terms of roadways, for example.
Well, it adds on to our continued building program. There was a question that was passed just recently in southern Nevada for those monies to exist for the construction of roadways. You've got your Regional Transportation Commission in the Washoe County area that has their plan, and those monies are continually coming in. There's a revenue stream to do that, as long as we've got the property set aside to accomplish those roadways.
Okay. Well, speaking of money, the Economic Forum happens today.
It does.
What do you expect to hear?
I expect to hear that they'll kind of be a middle-of-the-road barometer, that our economy is very robust, that we're going to have a great deal of additional money over the next 2 years to deal with our education programs and our mental health and other healthcare programs. And they'll also sort of peg the surplus, I think, that exists. And it'll be a little bit more than it was when the governor gave you the State of the State address, is what my view is. But they'll also, I think, help us take into account the holes that we've got to fill in the next 2 years in the Medicaid shortfalls and the shortfalls in the budget errors that were made in the distributive school account. So that'll be, I think, what happens today.
Were you not shocked about that, the holes in the DSA?
I was very concerned about that. There are always budget corrections that have to be made, but these were extraordinarily large. And, we just can't have that kind of error when we build our budgets. Thankfully, we found it now, and not 6 months from now when this legislature is not in session.
Do you think it's going to be, the surplus is going to be anywhere around the $2 billion that some people have been saying?
No, that's not what the surplus is. There's no way that we've got a $2 billion surplus. It'll be in the hundreds of millions, certainly, but I doubt that it'll even approach $1 billion.
Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll ask you the magic question about rebate. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers and Mr. Speaker after this.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
Materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Pepper Mill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Pepper Mill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you dining?
Your best value in sight is here for you to see. From frames to lenses to eye exams, you're covered A to Z. Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
Davis Optical Centers, with 2 locations in Reno and Sparks.
Davis Optical, your best value in sight.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers with Richard Perkins, the Speaker of the Assembly. It came out that there's an Arbery-June Kiliani bill that will put $100 million of the budget surplus into the Millennium Scholarship Program, and also talk about, well, you know, the public doesn't really want to have a rebate. That's not what I'm hearing. It's not what I'm hearing at all. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, we get mixed messages, frankly, from the public. Some want to make sure that we've taken care of the needs of the state that we haven't taken care of in the past, but some, frankly, want the rebate. And it's been my effort so far in this legislature to make sure that there's a rebate that goes back to the citizens. I think we need to keep the faith with them, and nobody expected to have this kind of a windfall in our budget, our economy to recover as quickly as it did. And I think that it's the partnership that we have with our citizens that's very, very important, and a rebate is part of that.
Okay, are you looking at the $100 million that Bob Beers initially suggested, the $300 million? $300 million that the governor suggested?
Well, that all happens towards the end of the session when we figure out where we're at with monies. Again, depends on what the economic forum tells us we have today. And then it's balancing the critical needs of the state and the construction of various facilities and the money that's going into remediation for education and et cetera, et cetera. So it's balancing all that. I think it should be a sizable rebate, however.
Good. Now, part of the Assembly passed 3 bills last week dealing with hospitals and trying to lower essentially hospital profits and helping reform health care. No Republican joined on any of those bills, and you've got now an antagonism between the business community and the legislature, kind of like what we saw last session. I see the business community rallying behind the hospitals. Now, one of the suggestions was a 4% of the net proceeds have to be spent back into the community. There were actually hospitals that lost money last year in Las Vegas, so you're going to have them, because of indigent care and free programs. How does making them spend 4% of their profit really help lower health care costs?
Well, it wasn't their profit, it was their gross.
Well, their gross, yeah, it wasn't even 4% of their revenues.
What we're trying to find out is how much they are actually already investing in the community. And I would venture to say that if they've lost money and that sort of thing, and they're talking about all the indigent care they take care of, that they're already investing 4%.
Okay.
But we want to have the most important parts of the bill. We're having them have a dialogue with the community and finding out what the community needs are, so that when they go build a new hospital, they're building it in the right area. When we have another designation for a trauma center, it's not right next to the one that already exists. We're expanding the system. When we're developing services, we're moving into services of unmet needs instead of those that already exist. That's really what we're trying to do. Because when 83% of the beds in Las Vegas are controlled by out-of-state corporations, we're just trying to get them to reconnect with our community, because I think there's a disconnect there, and help drive the cost of healthcare down, since a full 1/3 of our healthcare dollar is hospital care.
But there are lots and lots of national corporations that do business in Nevada. Why are we not asking them to do the same thing? Wouldn't that suddenly make us a somewhat business unfriendly climate?
No, because none of the other industries, the disciplines, are so controlled by out-of-state corporations. In the Reno area, for example, it's much, much lower. I think it's about 40% of the local beds are controlled by out-of-state corporations. So you've got more of a community connection. All we're asking is, because of of the monopoly, if you will, in this one industry, for them to reconnect with our community. And I think that's a fair thing to ask of them.
But you look at a hospital like St. Mary's, for example, in northern Nevada, and they've not been doing so well the last couple of years. To take money from their gross revenues, wouldn't that be a big problem for them?
I don't know that it would be, because again, if they're already investing, St. Mary's, I think, is an extraordinary hospital. I think they're already invested in our community in Reno, and they're already doing a number of these things. They're probably far outstripping the requirements of this bill already.
You have an interesting perspective as a police officer in your other life, the brothel industry wanted to put themselves up to be taxed. And basically the word has come back, we don't want to legitimize the brothel industry, but the brothel industry is legal in the state of Nevada. And in the past, Washoe County District Attorney on this program, Dick Gamick, has said that with the right controls, that he would not have a problem with prostitution being legalized in Washoe County. Mayor Goodman has said the same thing about Clark County. Why aren't we looking at it? Because prostitution is a huge problem, illegal prostitution, in our two major counties. Why would we not want to, A, take money from that, and B, perhaps down the road look at legalizing that so it could be controlled and taxed and enforced?
Well, illegal drug abuse is a problem in our community as well, but we're not looking at legalizing that. I think that it coexists in some of the rural parts of our state, and the voters out there have supported that, and that's not for me to say. So, but in our larger urban areas, I don't think it's the appropriate thing to do, and nor is it the appropriate message to send to our children. So that's my view on it. And this is not a session of taxation. We're trying to find ways to rebate money and
but when people come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to give you the money," we're a legitimate business. We pay taxes to the county. We like to pay taxes to the state.
Again, I guess it's just the whole sense of Nevada further legitimizing it in the more urban areas or to the larger populations, and I just don't think that's appropriate.
Well, another problem we do have in the state of Nevada is problem gaming. And do you support the governor's proposal for the first time, actually, the state funding treatment programs for problem gaming? I mean, now, that almost legitimizes the problem, I know, just like we would legitimize prostitution. But
well, I don't know if it legitimizes it, but it recognizes it. And certainly, 1 to 2% of our population does have a gambling problem. So it's supporting the governor's effort is something I certainly will do. It helps us continue to embrace gaming as the form of entertainment it is, and still recognize that there are people that have a problem with that.
And we are out of time. Always a pleasure to have you on the program. Please come back now that we're in your house. It's a pleasure to have you here. Speaker of the Assembly, Richard Perkins. We'll be right back with the Pundits on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers. Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seem to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links. protecting your investment.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, it's time for the Pundit Panel, and we're joined by Ray Bacon, Executive Director of the Nevada Manufacturers Association, Chris Wicker, who's the Chair of the Washoe County Democratic Party, and Alfredo Alonso, who has finally surfaced on our program again. Welcome, with Lionel, Sawyer, and Collins. Welcome to all of you. Let's start out, first of all, with some thoughts on Speaker Perkins' comments. Ray?
Well, he talked a little bit about the growth thing, and that's a relatively key point. We have focused all the growth and infrastructure meetings on the two largest urban counties. The problems that the urban counties right now are the same things that are going to take place in the future in Carson City, Douglas County, and Lyon County. Lyon County, remember, is the fastest growing county in the state and has been for two or three things. If you're going to focus on growth and infrastructure, you got to spend some time on those guys because they're going to have the same problems, and they're small enough right now that you can resolve them. The second thing, and probably the biggest single point, is our land prices. We do not have a property tax problem. What we have is a scarcity of land problem, and nobody seems to be willing to address that. The latest numbers that came out say we're at 91.8% federal ownership. Until we get that number down to the point where we get back down to the traditional number we all talked about of 13% private ownership or 87% federal ownership, we're not going to solve our scarcity of land problem. And the difference between the 91.8 and the 87% is 4.5 million acres. Now, 4.5 million acres solves a lot of problems with scarcity of land issues.
Well, we've talked about this on the show before, Alfredo. How do we resolve this? Is it the congressional delegation that has to take the
I think so. What pains me most here is I have to agree with Ray.
It's so rare.
The problem in home prices in the Bay Area and the Washington, D.C. area is scarcity of land. There's nothing to buy. Nevada, of all places, the seventh biggest state, has the same problem. So we're in a situation where we have limited resources, limited land, and the feds aren't helping. And I think that's absolutely right. I think we're going to need some help from the delegation to open up some land in both northern and southern Nevada.
You know, the interesting part about that is we have loved having the BLM lands and other federal lands sold off in Clark County and have some of that money shipped up this area to save some environmentally sensitive lands in Washoe County, northern Nevada. It's recently been surfaced, well, maybe we should do the same thing in Washoe County, sell off some federal lands and do the same sort of thing. And a lot of people in Washoe County are hitting the roof about it. And I sympathize because you want to keep as much open space as you can, but at the same time, you have to really look at land prices and not have people priced out of houses. You have to open up the land somewhere. And it's going to be an interesting battle here in Washoe County.
Well, but there's also a natural overflow, wouldn't you agree, which is that you're seeing development out in places like Fernley, Dayton, down in southern Nevada, across the Colorado River in Arizona. Rhodes, the builder down there, is buying up huge chunks of land. So people are going to be dealing with the words that they deal with in Los Angeles and the Bay Area, commute.
Well, that's why you see the overflow is, I think, land prices. It's all, I think, related to land prices, and something's going to be done about it. And any way you go, anytime you have some kind of growth like that or change in status of lands, a lot of people are going to be unhappy, but that may be what has to be done.
Well, the issue is huge, and as I said when I started off, the Pride system that they started doing buses out to Lyon County and all the way down to Douglas and Carson City, that's a major step in the right direction. That allows, it's got to get to the point where it's a better service, but that allows some reasonable commute times and some reasonable commute methods. That, along with figuring out a way around Carson City, which is in process for half of it, okay, the other half of it's still being ignored. At some point in time, you're going to have to figure out a way around Gardnerville and Minden, because that's a huge bottleneck. The same thing takes place. You've got to do something around the Fernley issue. So, there's all kinds of issues. They're relatively easily solvable now. If you wait 20 years, they won't be.
Well, I wonder if Ray is saying some of that surplus ought to be used for infrastructure instead of a rebate.
Well, some of that, not necessarily. One of the things which I believe would make a lot of sense is to go to the federal delegation and say, give us a land donation to schools. So give the schools, the whole education system, a huge donation, 500,000 acres or something like that, and let the schools sell it off as A, they need the money, and B, more important than that, is they see reason to sell it off at a profit. That's a donation in kind, if you will, and it solves all kinds of problems around the state.
Okay, I want to talk about all kinds of problems that we'll be having all around the state. Big article in yesterday's New York Times, unmentioned energy fix. A 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. Alfredo?
Well, let's face it, this is Nevada. We're not going to go 55 even if the law says we have to. I mean,
we don't now.
That's fairly silly in the West. I think, from an energy standpoint, there are a lot of other things that we should be doing, but trying to enforce laws that I think, I think we probably spend more energy trying to enforce that than we would otherwise. So I think that we need to look at renewables. We need to look at obviously a lot of
we need new refineries. The price of gas would drop immediately if we had bigger refining capacity.
And obviously you've got issues with the pipeline, et cetera. So at the end of the day, it's the infrastructure that's the problem more than anything else. And let's face it, I think mass transit has got to be pushed a little harder in this country. And I think particularly in the West, where I don't think it's, for the most part, it's non-existent.
Well, I don't think it's not really the
unfortunately, we're out of time, but that is a great topic for another day. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
If Harry fails...
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Here at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, water resources come from fresh, clean groundwater, approved by state permits. The water is pumped from wells to million-gallon storage tanks and then distributed to TRI companies. Another amenity is our investment in a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. This disposal system converts waste to clean water for industrial applications. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevada.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
If it's fun, it's here at the Peppermill, the $100,000 video-themed slot celebration, with more winners each week, 100 random winners every Monday and Wednesday, and more cash prizes, $6,000 random drawings every Friday, plus chances to win up to $1,000 in free slot play on Mr. Money's Challenge. You'll have more fun with the Peppermill's video-themed slot celebration, now worth over $100,000.
The slots that rock are at the Peppermill. Where are you winning?
It really was a matter of confusion, and I also had the stress on my wife was considerable too, as she ran around talking to the right people and trying to track down resources that would improve my health and make me independent again.
One-stop access for caregivers, NevadaCareConnection.org. We'll be broadcasting from the state legislature all the way through the end of the session. If you have questions or comments, we love to get your emails at newsmakers@kbbc.com and newsmakers@krnv.com. And coming up tomorrow,
we have the governor of the state of Nevada, Kenny Gwynn.
We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.